A millionaire rejected a job applicant for being a single mom. What she did to prove him wrong left him stunned. And before we continue, let us know in the comments where you're watching from and make sure to subscribe to our channel for more gripping stories like this. Enjoy the story. Rain pounded relentlessly on the streets of New York City. Emily Parker stood just outside the towering entrance of Vance Enterprises, her reflection shimmering faintly in the glass doors. Her fingers trembled as she adjusted her blazer. This wasn't just any job interview. It was her last shot at stability. Everything was riding on this moment. The rent that was 2 weeks overdue, her daughter Lily's school tuition, and the growing stack of bills that mocked her every time she opened the mailbox. "You can do this." "For Lily," Emily whispered under her breath as she ran a hand through her damp hair and stepped inside. The lobby was a cathedral of glass and marble, cold and imposing. The receptionist barely glanced up as Emily nervously approached. "Emily Parker, I'm here for the interview with Mr. Vance," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. The receptionist nodded mechanically and gestured toward a row of chairs. "Please have a seat. He'll see you shortly." Emily sat down, clutching her purse tightly. Her mind raced. This was Vance Enterprises, one of the largest and most competitive corporations in the city. Robert Vance was infamous in the business world, brilliant but ruthless. Rumor had it he never gave second chances. Emily had spent days preparing for this interview, rehearsing answers, researching the company's projects, and memorizing data that she could effortlessly cite if needed. But all of that confidence seemed to evaporate as the minutes dragged on. Would he dismiss her before she even had a chance to explain her qualifications? Would he see her as just another applicant with baggage? Someone who didn't belong in his fast-paced corporate world? "Ms. Parker." The receptionist's voice snapped her out of her thoughts. "Mr. Vance will see you now." Emily stood, straightened her posture, and followed a young assistant through a maze of glass-walled offices and minimalist decor. Her footsteps echoed faintly against the polished floors until they reached a massive wooden door. The assistant knocked once and opened it, revealing a spacious, intimidating office. Robert Vance stood behind his desk, his back to the door, as he gazed out at the rain-soaked skyline. He turned slowly, his sharp features betraying no emotion. He was tall, impeccably dressed, and exuded an air of authority that made the room feel smaller. Emily forced herself to meet his gaze and extended her hand. "Mr. Vance, thank you for taking the time to meet with me," she said. He shook her hand briefly, his grip firm but impersonal. "Ms. Parker, please sit." Emily sat across from him, her heart pounding. He picked up her resume and glanced at it without much interest. "You've worked in marketing at small agencies," he said, his voice calm but direct. "And then you took a 2-year break. Care to explain why?" Here it was, the question she had been dreading. Emily swallowed hard, knowing this was the moment that would make or break her chances. "I took time off to care for my daughter," she began, keeping her voice steady. "There were some personal challenges that required my full attention, but during that time, I stayed current with industry trends and freelance projects. Now, I'm ready to fully commit and bring my experience to your company." Vance raised an eyebrow. "Personal challenges? You mean you're a single mother?" "Yes," Emily replied, refusing to flinch under his scrutinizing gaze. "But I don't see that as a disadvantage. In fact, it's given me a unique strength: time management, resilience, and problem-solving under pressure. I've learned to prioritize and deliver results no matter the circumstances." Vance leaned back in his chair, his fingers steepled together. "I appreciate your honesty, but let's be realistic. This is a high-pressure environment. Our clients demand constant attention. Single parents often struggle to meet those demands. I can't afford to take that risk." The words hit her like a punch to the gut. Emily felt a surge of anger, but kept her composure. "With all due respect, Mr. Vance, I think you're underestimating me." Being a single mother isn't a distraction. It's my motivation. I work harder because I have someone depending on me. I've led successful campaigns in the past, balancing tight deadlines and high stakes. I can do the same for your company." Vance's expression remained impassive. He tapped the resume once on the desk before pushing it aside. "I'm sure you believe that. But from a business perspective, I have to make decisions based on performance and reliability. Thank you for coming in, Ms. Parker." Emily's throat tightened. She had been dismissed, just like that. The rejection burned, but she knew arguing would accomplish nothing. Slowly, she stood and extended her hand again. "Thank you for your time," she said, her voice calm despite the storm of emotions swirling inside her. Vance shook her hand briefly, then returned to his desk as if she had already ceased to exist. Emily turned and walked out of the office, her heels clicking sharply against the floor. The assistant escorted her back to the lobby, where the cold reality of what had just happened hit her full force. By the time she stepped outside, the rain had intensified. Drops pelted her face and soaked through her clothes, but she didn't care. She stood there for a moment, letting the rain wash away the disappointment and frustration. This wasn't the end. She refused to let it be. If Vance Enterprises didn't want her, someone else would. As she walked to the subway station, her mind began racing with ideas. She would find another opportunity, another company that recognized her worth. This was just one setback in a long journey, and Emily Parker wasn't someone who gave up easily. For Lily, for herself, she would prove them all wrong. Emily awoke the next morning to a gray sky and a lingering heaviness in her chest. The interview with Robert Vance replayed in her mind like a broken record. His condescending words echoed. "Distractions. I can't afford to take that risk." She sighed deeply and shook her head. Dwelling on it wouldn't change anything. If anything, it fueled her resolve. "Mommy, is breakfast ready?" Lily's sweet voice called from the bedroom. "Coming, sweetheart." Emily called back, forcing a smile. Her 6-year-old daughter was the light of her life, her greatest reason to push forward. Emily couldn't afford to wallow in disappointment. There was too much at stake. After preparing pancakes and sending Lily off to school, Emily opened her laptop. Her inbox was filled with the usual automated rejection emails from other job applications. She sighed and moved them to the trash, determined not to let them crush her spirit. Instead, she began searching job boards again. Hours passed as she scrolled through listings, sending out applications wherever she could. It was during her third cup of coffee that a particular job posting caught her eye. Senior Marketing Specialist, Bright Future Enterprises. She recognized the company instantly. They were one of Vance Enterprises' fiercest competitors, known for their innovative campaigns and strong community presence. Emily clicked on the listing, reading through the job description. The position was ideal. Leadership responsibilities, creative strategy development, and opportunities to work on high-impact projects. More importantly, Bright Future's reputation was built on values of teamwork, empathy, and social impact. This wasn't just another cold corporation. It was a company that celebrated people's stories and triumphs. It was exactly the kind of place where she could thrive. Without hesitation, Emily updated her resume, carefully tailoring it to emphasize her strengths in leadership and creative problem-solving. She added examples of the marketing campaigns she had spearheaded, highlighting the tangible results she had achieved despite challenging circumstances. She then attached a cover letter that spoke directly to Bright Future's mission. With a deep breath, she hit submit. The rest of the day passed in a blur of errands and housework. By evening, Emily had all but forgotten about the application until her phone rang. She glanced at the unfamiliar number on the screen and hesitated for a moment before answering. "Hello, this is Emily Parker." "Good evening, Ms. Parker. This is Sandra McAllister, HR Director at Bright Future Enterprises. We received your application earlier today, and we're very impressed by your background." I'd like to schedule an interview with you at your earliest convenience. Emily's heart leapt. She had applied only hours ago. Wow. Thank you. I'm honored. I'm available whenever works best for you. Would tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. work? Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. Great. I'll email you the details shortly. We're excited to learn more about you, Ms. Parker. Have a great evening. As the call ended, Emily stood frozen for a moment, clutching the phone to her chest. Bright Future Enterprises wanted to interview her. It was more than she had dared to hope for. Determined not to waste the opportunity, she spent the rest of the night researching the company, reviewing their past campaigns, and preparing responses to potential questions. The next morning, Emily woke early, filled with nervous energy. She chose an outfit that balanced professionalism with confidence, a tailored navy dress, and a simple silver necklace. After dropping Lily off at school, she made her way to Bright Future's headquarters, her heart pounding with anticipation. The building was modern and inviting, a stark contrast to the cold, imposing atmosphere of Vance Enterprises. Warm light filtered through large windows, and employees moved through the space with a sense of purpose and camaraderie. The receptionist greeted her with a friendly smile. "Good morning, Ms. Parker. You're here for your interview with Mr. Duncan." "Yes, that's right," Emily replied. "Perfect. I'll let him know you've arrived. Please feel free to have a seat." Emily sat in the waiting area, taking in the atmosphere around her. Inspirational quotes about leadership and teamwork adorned the walls, and she could hear faint laughter from a nearby office. This place already felt different, alive, and full of possibility. "Miss Parker, Mr. Duncan will see you now," the receptionist said with a smile. Emily followed her down a bright corridor until they reached a spacious office with large windows overlooking the city. Nathan Duncan, Bright Future CEO, stood from behind his desk to greet her. He was in his late 40s, with a warm, approachable demeanor and an easy smile. "Emily, welcome. It's a pleasure to meet you," he said, extending his hand. "Thank you, Mr. Duncan. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Please call me Nathan," he said, motioning for her to sit. "We've reviewed your application, and I have to say, your experience is impressive. I'm particularly interested in how you handled some of the challenges you mentioned in your campaigns. Can you walk me through one of your biggest successes?" Emily relaxed slightly, her nerves giving way to enthusiasm. She spoke passionately about a marketing campaign she had led for a small agency that helped struggling local businesses increase their visibility. Despite a tight budget and limited resources, she had found creative ways to maximize impact through community engagement and social media outreach. Nathan listened intently, nodding at key moments. "That's exactly the kind of initiative we value here. At Bright Future, we believe that strong storytelling and genuine connections drive the best results. What motivates you to approach your work this way?" Emily paused for a moment, reflecting. "Honestly, it's my daughter. I want to set an example for her, to show her that perseverance and integrity matter. I've faced a lot of challenges as a single mother, but those experiences have shaped who I am. They've taught me to think creatively and stay resilient no matter what." Nathan's expression softened. "I admire that. We believe personal challenges can shape extraordinary leaders. It's clear you have the drive and vision we're looking for." Emily's heart swelled with hope. "Thank you, Nathan. If given the chance, I'll give this role everything I have." "Well, you're already off to a great start," he said with a smile. "We'll be in touch very soon." As Emily left the office, a wave of relief and excitement washed over her. The interview had gone better than she could have imagined. For the first time in a long while, she felt seen, not as a liability, but as someone with valuable experiences to offer. The rain had cleared by the time she stepped outside. The clouds parted to reveal a brilliant blue sky, and for the first time in weeks, Emily felt a spark of optimism. The journey wasn't over, but she was finally moving forward. Whatever came next, she was ready. 3 days later, Emily was in the middle of preparing lunch when her phone rang. She wiped her hands on a towel and grabbed the phone, her heart skipping a beat when she saw the caller ID. Bright Future Enterprises. "This is Emily Parker," she answered, trying to sound calm despite the butterflies in her stomach. "Hi, Emily. It's Sandra McAllister from Bright Future. I'm thrilled to inform you that we'd like to officially offer you the Senior Marketing Specialist position. Nathan Duncan was very impressed with your interview, and we believe you'll be a fantastic addition to the team." Emily gasped softly, almost dropping the phone. "Oh, wow. Thank you. I'm honored. I can't tell you how much this means to me. We're excited to have you on board. You'll start on Monday. I'll send over the onboarding paperwork and schedule by email." "Congratulations, Emily." As the call ended, Emily stood frozen in place for a moment, letting the news sink in. She had done it. After months of rejection, struggle, and doubt, she finally had her breakthrough. A wide smile spread across her face as she rushed to the bedroom where Lily was playing with her dolls. "Sweetheart, guess what? Mommy got the job," she exclaimed, scooping her daughter into her arms. "Really?" Lily giggled, hugging her tightly. "Does that mean we can have ice cream to celebrate?" Emily laughed, her eyes misty with emotion. "Yes, it does. But more than that, it means things are going to get better for us. I promise." The weekend flew by in a blur of preparation. Emily bought a few new outfits for work and spent hours planning her schedule to ensure she could balance her new responsibilities and still be present for Lily. By the time Monday morning arrived, she was a mix of excitement and nerves. This was her chance to prove not only to Bright Future, but also to herself that she could excel at the highest level. As she entered the Bright Future headquarters, she was greeted warmly by the receptionist. "Good morning, Miss Parker. Welcome aboard." Emily smiled. "Thank you. It feels great to be here." Sandra met her in the lobby and gave her a tour of the office. Everywhere Emily looked, there were signs of collaboration and creativity. Teams brainstormed in open spaces filled with whiteboards, colorful post-its, and screens displaying project progress. It was a vibrant, energetic environment that buzzed with possibility. "Here's your workspace," Sandra said, leading Emily to a corner office with large windows overlooking the city. "Nathan likes his senior leaders to have their own space where they can focus and innovate. Your team will meet with you later today for introductions and strategy planning." Emily couldn't believe it. Her own office. She ran her fingers across the smooth desk and took a deep breath. This was real. She had earned her place here. "Thank you, Sandra. This means so much to me," she said. Sandra smiled warmly. "You've earned it, Emily. Now let's get you set up with IT, and then you'll be ready for your first meeting." A few hours later, Emily sat at the head of a large conference table as her new team filed in. They introduced themselves one by one. Jacob, a data analyst with a knack for market trends. Priya, a social media strategist with a creative edge. And Luis, a veteran copywriter known for crafting compelling narratives. Emily listened attentively, already forming ideas about how their strengths could complement one another. "Thank you all for the warm welcome," she began once the introductions were complete. "I'm excited to be here, and I know we have some big projects ahead of us. I want to start by saying that I value collaboration and innovation. I'm not here to micromanage. I want us to share ideas openly and build campaigns that connect with people on a deeper level. Together, we can do something truly impactful." Jacob nodded. "We've got a lot of talent on this team, and with the right direction, we can take our campaigns to new heights." "Exactly," Emily agreed. "Let's start by reviewing the current projects. I want to understand what's working and where we can improve." For the next hour, the team dissected Bright Future's latest marketing initiatives. Some campaigns were performing well, but others were lagging behind in engagement and conversion rates. As the discussion continued, Emily noticed a recurring theme. The underperforming campaigns lacked emotional resonance. They relied too heavily on flashy visuals and industry jargon, failing to connect with the audience on a human level. "We need to change our approach," Emily said, jotting down notes. "Our message needs to reflect who we are as a company. Let's focus on storytelling, real stories of people whose lives have been positively impacted by our services. That's what will set us apart." Priya leaned forward, intrigued. "You're right. People want authenticity. If we can highlight those stories in a compelling way, we'll build trust and loyalty." "Exactly," Emily said with a smile. "Let's start by identifying clients who'd be willing to share their experiences. We'll create a multimedia campaign showcasing their journeys. We can use testimonials, short documentary-style videos, and social media highlights." The room buzzed with excitement as the team brainstormed ideas. Emily felt a surge of pride. This was what she loved, bringing people together to create something meaningful. By the time the meeting ended, they had a clear roadmap for the campaign, and everyone left energized and motivated. Later that day, Nathan Duncan stopped by her office. "How's the first day going, Emily?" he asked. "Really well," she replied. "The team is fantastic. We've already started working on a new campaign that focuses on client success stories. I think it has the potential to be a game changer." Nathan smiled approvingly. "That's exactly the kind of initiative we need. I knew we made the right choice hiring you." "Thank you, Nathan. I won't let you down," she said sincerely. "I know you won't. Keep up the great work," he said before heading to his next meeting. As the day wound down, Emily leaned back in her chair, gazing out the window at the bustling city below. This was only the beginning, but she felt more confident than ever. The doubts and fears that had haunted her for months were beginning to fade. She was exactly where she needed to be. That night, as she tucked Lily into bed, Emily reflected on how much had changed in just a few days. "Mommy's going to be really busy, but I'll always have time for you," she promised, brushing a strand of hair from Lily's face. "I know," Lily said sleepily. "You're my hero, Mommy." Emily's heart swelled with emotion. "And you're mine, sweetie, always." With those words, she kissed Lily goodnight and turned off the light. As she lay in bed later, she couldn't help but smile. The journey had been tough, but it was far from over. Now, it was time to rise, conquer new challenges, and show the world what she was truly capable of. The following weeks at Bright Future Enterprises were a whirlwind of activity. Emily quickly found herself leading multiple projects, each more demanding than the last. The new campaign focusing on client success stories was gaining momentum, but it wasn't without its challenges. Coordinating interviews, filming sessions, and marketing rollouts required precise timing and a high level of creativity. Despite the pressure, Emily thrived. Every problem became an opportunity to innovate. Her team rallied around her, energized by her vision. Jacob compiled detailed market data to identify the ideal demographics for each story, while Priya spearheaded social media strategies that ensured maximum engagement. Luis worked tirelessly to craft compelling scripts for the videos. Together, they were transforming the campaign into something extraordinary. One late afternoon, Emily sat at her desk, reviewing a rough cut of one of the campaign's centerpiece videos. It featured a single father who had started a small business with bright future support. His story was raw, emotional, and inspiring. As Emily watched the video, she felt goosebumps form on her arms. This was exactly the kind of connection they needed to make with their audience. Just as she was making notes on the video, her phone buzzed. It was Nathan Duncan. "Emily, do you have a moment?" he asked. "Of course, Nathan. What's up?" "I wanted to give you a heads up. Vance Enterprises just launched a new campaign today. It's aggressive, lots of high-budget visuals and celebrity endorsements. They're clearly trying to reclaim market dominance." Emily leaned back in her chair, her mind racing. Of course, Vance Enterprises wouldn't sit back quietly while Bright Future gained ground. "Have you seen the campaign yet?" "I have," Nathan replied. "It's flashy, but it's missing heart. It's all style, no substance. I think we're still in a strong position, but I wanted you to be aware. The competition's heating up. Got it. Thanks for letting me know, Emily said. After hanging up, she immediately pulled up Vance Enterprises' new campaign on her laptop. It was exactly as Nathan had described. High production value, glamorous visuals, and famous faces touting the company's services. But as Emily watched, she noticed something crucial. The campaign lacked authenticity. It was polished to perfection, but it felt distant and impersonal. Emily's instincts kicked in. If Bright Future wanted to maintain its edge, they couldn't afford to react emotionally to the competition's flashy tactics. Instead, they needed to double down on their core strength, emotional connection. She called an emergency meeting with her team. Within minutes, they were gathered around the conference table, their faces reflecting a mixture of curiosity and concern. All right, everyone, Emily began, projecting the Vance Enterprises campaign onto the screen behind her. This is what we're up against. It's flashy, it's expensive, and it's everywhere. But what's it missing? Luis spoke up first. A soul. It's all surface level. I mean, celebrities talking about services they probably don't even use? It feels fake. Exactly, Emily agreed. Our audience is smarter than that. They want something real. Stories that they can relate to. That's where we have the upper hand. We've already built trust by sharing genuine success stories. Now, we need to amplify that trust. Jacob nodded. We could increase our focus on client testimonials. Maybe release a behind-the-scenes series showing how these stories were created. It would humanize the campaign even more. I like that idea, Emily said, jotting it down. What else? Priya leaned forward, her eyes lighting up. What if we create interactive content? Something that invites our audience to share their own stories of success. We can run a campaign on social media where clients and followers submit their experiences, and we feature the best ones in our ads. That's perfect, Emily said with a grin. If we make this a community-driven effort, it'll be impossible for Vance Enterprises to compete. They can't manufacture genuine relationships. For the next 2 hours, the team brainstormed strategies to strengthen their campaign. By the end of the meeting, they had a comprehensive plan that included client engagement initiatives, live Q&A sessions, and targeted outreach to reinforce existing partnerships. The team left the room energized, but Emily remained behind for a moment, collecting her thoughts. She knew this wasn't just about marketing tactics, it was personal. Robert Vance had dismissed her, and now she was leading the charge against his company. The irony wasn't lost on her, but she didn't let it distract her. This was about more than proving him wrong. It was about standing up for herself and everyone who had ever been underestimated. Over the next few weeks, Bright Future's enhanced campaign took shape. The client success videos were rolled out in phases, accompanied by interactive features that encouraged users to engage with the stories. Emily and her team monitored the response closely, and the results were astounding. Engagement rates soared as people shared the videos across platforms, tagging friends and leaving comments about how the stories resonated with them. One afternoon, Emily received an email from a longtime client who had seen the campaign. The message read, "Dear Emily, I just wanted to say thank you. Watching these stories reminded me why I chose to work with Bright Future in the first place. You're not just selling services, you're changing lives. Keep up the incredible work." Emily read the email twice, her eyes misting over. This was why she did what she did. It wasn't about flashy presentations or cutthroat competition. It was about making a difference. Meanwhile, Robert Vance wasn't faring as well. Despite the enormous budget behind his campaign, the results were underwhelming. His team scrambled to make adjustments, but nothing seemed to stick. Clients were losing trust in the company, and several high-profile accounts began exploring other options, many of them turning to Bright Future. Vance's frustration grew. During a tense board meeting, he paced the room, his jaw clenched. "We need to hit back harder," he said. "More ads, more incentives. Whatever it takes to win back market share." One of his senior advisors spoke cautiously. "With all due respect, sir, I think we're missing the point. Bright Future isn't just out marketing us. They're out connecting us. Their clients feel valued, and that's something we can't replicate overnight." Vance scowled but said nothing. Deep down, he knew the advisor was right. He had underestimated Emily Parker once, and now he was paying the price. At Bright Future, the momentum continued to build. Emily's leadership was making waves within the company and beyond. Nathan Duncan stopped by her office one evening, a broad smile on his face. "Emily, I just got off a call with the board. They're thrilled with the campaign's success. You've elevated our brand to a whole new level." "That's great to hear," Emily replied, feeling a mix of pride and relief. "But we can't get complacent. Vance Enterprises will keep trying to outdo us." "True," Nathan said, "but I have no doubt we'll stay ahead. You've proven that authenticity wins every time." As he left, Emily gazed out the window, the city lights twinkling below. She had come so far from that humiliating interview with Robert Vance. Now, she was leading one of the most successful marketing initiatives in the industry. But she wasn't done yet. The journey was far from over, and she was ready for whatever came next. The sun poured through Emily's office windows as she reviewed the latest campaign performance report. The numbers were incredible. Engagement rates had doubled, and Bright Future's social media following had surged. The strategy to humanize the brand had exceeded all expectations, positioning the company as an industry leader. Still, Emily knew that maintaining this momentum was key. Complacency wasn't an option. She was about to call Priya to discuss the next phase of the campaign when her phone rang. The caller ID displayed an unfamiliar number, but something about it gave her pause. With a deep breath, she answered. "Hello, this is Emily Parker." "Ms. Parker," came the cool, familiar voice on the other end. "This is Robert Vance." Emily's stomach tightened. Of all the people she expected to hear from, he was the last. She leaned back in her chair, gripping the phone a little tighter. "Mr. Vance, to what do I owe the calls?" There was a brief pause before he spoke again. "I believe we have unfinished business. I'd like to meet with you to discuss an opportunity, something that could benefit both of us." Emily's mind raced. Robert Vance wanted to meet with her? After everything that had happened, after rejecting her and dismissing her as a liability. The audacity almost made her laugh. Still, her curiosity got the better of her. What could he possibly want now? "I'm not sure what there is to discuss," she said, keeping her voice steady. "I'm very happy where I am." "I'm aware," Vance replied. "You've done impressive work at Bright Future, but I believe we could accomplish even more together. I won't take up much of your time. One meeting. That's all I ask." Emily hesitated. Part of her wanted to tell him exactly what she thought of his offer and hang up, but another part of her was curious. What could drive a man like Vance to reach out to someone he had once dismissed so easily? This was an opportunity to see him on her terms, this time with the upper hand. "Fine," she said after a moment. "I can meet tomorrow at 10. But let's be clear, Mr. Vance. I'm not here to be persuaded." "Understood," he said, his voice unreadable. "See you tomorrow." Emily ended the call and stared at her phone. What game was Vance playing? She shook her head and turned her attention back to her work. Whatever his intentions were, she would be ready. The next morning, Emily stepped into the marble-lined lobby of Vance Enterprises. This time, the experience felt entirely different. She wasn't the nervous job applicant seeking approval. She was a proven leader, someone whose success had forced Robert Vance to take notice. The power dynamics had shifted, and Emily intended to make that clear. The receptionist greeted her politely and led her to Vance's office. As she entered, Vance stood from behind his desk and extended his hand. He was composed, but there was a tension in his eyes that hadn't been there during their first meeting. "Emily, thank you for coming," he said. She shook his hand briefly. Let's skip the pleasantries, Mr. Vance. What's this all about? He motioned for her to sit, then returned to his chair. You're direct. I respect that, he said, his lips curving into a faint smile. Here's the truth. Your campaign at Bright Future has shaken the industry. Clients are taking notice, and we've lost several key accounts to your company. Emily raised an eyebrow. I'm aware, she said, folding her hands in her lap. So, what exactly are you proposing? Vance leaned forward, his gaze steady. I want you to come work for me. I'm prepared to offer you a senior executive position, Chief Marketing Officer. You'll have full creative control and a salary package that reflects your contributions to our industry. Together, we could dominate the market. Emily blinked, momentarily stunned by the offer. CMO, full creative control. The position and pay were more than she had ever imagined. But she quickly regained her composure. You think you can buy my loyalty after rejecting me at my lowest point? She asked, her voice sharp. You didn't believe in me when it mattered. Why should I trust you now? Vance exhaled slowly, as if anticipating the question. I made a mistake. I let my biases cloud my judgment, and I underestimated you. That's not something I'm proud of. But I'm here now, acknowledging that mistake and offering you an opportunity to shape the future of this company. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking for a partnership. Emily stared at him, her mind swirling with thoughts. On one hand, the offer was undeniably tempting. She had worked tirelessly to reach this level of success, and the chance to lead a major corporation's marketing strategy was a dream for any professional. But on the other hand, she couldn't ignore the values that had brought her this far. Bright Future had believed in her when no one else did. They had given her the chance to prove herself without prejudice. I appreciate the offer, she said after a long pause, but I'm not interested. Bright Future saw my potential when you didn't. I owe them my loyalty, and I believe in the work we're doing. It's not just about money or titles. It's about creating real impact. Vance nodded slowly, his expression unreadable. I understand. But if you ever change your mind, my door is open. Emily stood and extended her hand. Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Vance. But I think we both know where I belong. They shook hands, and Emily turned to leave. As she walked out of the building, she felt an overwhelming sense of empowerment. This wasn't just about turning down a job offer. It was about reclaiming her worth. For too long, she had let the opinions of others dictate her path. But now, she was in control of her destiny. Later that day, Emily shared the story with Nathan Duncan during their weekly check-in. He actually offered you the CMO position. Nathan asked, astonished. Yep, Emily said with a chuckle. But I turned him down. I believe in what we're building here. I'm not going anywhere. Nathan grinned. Well, I'm glad to hear it. We're just getting started, Emily. With you leading the charge, the future is brighter than ever. As Emily left Nathan's office, she reflected on how far she had come. The girl who had once been dismissed and overlooked was now a force to be reckoned with. And as long as she stayed true to herself, there was nothing she couldn't achieve. The rivalry between Bright Future and Vance Enterprises intensified over the next several months. Vance Enterprises wasn't backing down. Their marketing budget swelled with new investments, and a surge of aggressive advertising filled every media outlet. Emily's team at Bright Future couldn't turn on a TV, scroll through social media, or even listen to the radio without being bombarded by Vance Enterprises' flashy ads. They're everywhere, Jacob muttered one morning during a campaign strategy session. He had a stack of reports in front of him, each one filled with metrics showing Vance's new ad reach. They're trying to drown us out with sheer volume. Emily leaned forward in her chair, tapping her pen thoughtfully against her notepad. Let them, she said calmly. Volume doesn't equal connection. They're spending millions to get people's attention, but attention without trust won't last. Still, Priya chimed in. We have to be prepared. Their strategy is clearly aimed at undermining us. We're already seeing some cracks. A few of our smaller clients have been tempted by their incentives. Emily nodded, taking in the information. She knew this was inevitable. When competing against a giant like Vance Enterprises, it wasn't just about who had the bigger budget. It was about staying true to their identity and mission. Vance might win a few short-term battles, but Emily was determined to win the long-term war. "All right," she said after a moment of silence. "We need to fortify our relationships with our existing clients. Let's reach out to them personally. Not through generic emails or automated messages. I want phone calls, video meetings, and face-to-face visits where possible. We need to remind them why they chose us in the first place." Jacob nodded in agreement. "That makes sense. If they see that we're invested in their success, they'll be less likely to jump ship. And we need to double down on the emotional side of our campaign," Emily continued. "Our stories are our greatest strength. Let's make them even more visible. Highlight them on every platform, every channel. I also want to hear directly from our audience. Priya, can we run a campaign where customers submit their own success stories?" "Absolutely," Priya said with a grin. "We could create a hashtag and encourage people to share their journeys. We'll feature the best ones across our social media and in future ads." "Perfect," Emily said, feeling a renewed sense of focus. "Let's show the world that Bright Future isn't just a company. It's a community of people who uplift each other." Over the next few weeks, Emily's plan came to life. Her team worked tirelessly to engage clients and audiences alike. The interactive campaign, titled "Together We Rise," invited customers to share how Bright Future had impacted their lives. The response was overwhelming. Hundreds of stories poured in. Stories of families starting businesses, individuals overcoming hardships, and communities flourishing through collaboration. One video submission stood out in particular. It featured a young entrepreneur named Sarah, who had used Bright Future services to launch a nonprofit that provided job training to underprivileged youth. Her heartfelt testimony, combined with footage of the lives she had changed, brought tears to Emily's eyes. "This," Emily said during a team meeting, "is what sets us apart. This is why people trust us." They quickly integrated Sarah's story into the campaign, turning it into a centerpiece video that was shared across multiple platforms. The video went viral within days, generating millions of views and sparking conversations about empowerment and resilience. News outlets picked up the story, further amplifying the campaign's reach. Meanwhile, at Vance Enterprises, the tension was palpable. Robert Vance sat in a boardroom surrounded by his senior executives. His normally calm demeanor had given way to frustration as he watched Bright Future's latest campaign unfold on a large screen. "How are they doing this?" he demanded, his voice laced with irritation. "We've poured millions into advertising, and yet they're still outpacing us. What's the problem?" One of his advisors spoke hesitantly. "Sir, they've built a level of trust and emotional engagement that we can't replicate with money alone. Their clients feel like they're part of something bigger. That's hard to compete with." Vance's jaw tightened. He hated the word trust. It was intangible, elusive, something that couldn't be quantified on a spreadsheet or controlled with strategy alone. And yet, it was exactly what his company was lacking. "We need a new approach," he muttered, though deep down, he wasn't sure what that approach should be. Back at Bright Future, Emily received an unexpected email from one of their largest clients. The client had been approached by Vance Enterprises with an enticing offer: better rates, exclusive perks, and a multi-million-dollar investment in their future projects. Yet, despite the tempting proposal, the client had chosen to stay with Bright Future. In their email, they explained why. "It's not just about the numbers. It's about how you make us feel. With Bright Future, we know we're more than just another account. We're part of a partnership built on mutual respect and shared values." Emily forwarded an email to Nathan Duncan, who called her moments later. "Emily, I don't think I've ever seen a client turn down an offer like that before," Nathan said, awe in his voice. You've created something truly remarkable here. We're not just surviving this competition, we're thriving. It's not just me, Emily replied modestly. It's the entire team. We all believe in what we're doing, and that's what makes the difference. Well, keep believing, Nathan said with a chuckle, because the board is over the moon. They're already talking about new expansions, thanks to the momentum you've built. As Emily hung up, she allowed herself a moment to breathe. The battle with Vance Enterprises wasn't over, but for the first time, she felt truly confident in their ability to maintain the lead. They had something Vance could never buy: authenticity and heart. Later that evening, Emily sat at her desk, reflecting on the journey so far. The road had been anything but easy. She had faced rejection, doubt, and immense pressure. But she had also discovered her inner strength, the power of resilience, and the impact of believing in people. She glanced at a framed photo of herself and Lily on her desk. Her daughter's bright smile reminded her of why she had fought so hard to succeed. This wasn't just about business. It was about creating a better future for her family and for everyone who had ever felt overlooked. As the city lights sparkled outside her window, Emily knew one thing for certain: Bright Future was just getting started. And no matter how fierce the competition became, she was ready to face it head-on. The pressure continued to mount as Bright Future's dominance in the market grew. The media hailed the success of the Together We Rise campaign, and clients flocked to the company in droves. Emily and her team were working around the clock to handle the influx of new projects, partnerships, and collaborations. They were hitting numbers no one had anticipated, and Nathan Duncan couldn't be more thrilled. But Emily knew better than to let her guard down. Vance Enterprises was wounded, but not defeated. Competitors with deep pockets and bruised egos didn't back down easily. She could feel the tension building, like a storm brewing on the horizon. The breaking point came during a strategy review meeting one morning. Jacob had just finished presenting a report when Priya burst into the room, her face pale with concern. "Emily, you need to see this," she said, setting her tablet on the table. She tapped the screen, pulling up a live news broadcast. The headline read, "Vance Enterprises launches counterattack. Exclusive new client agreements shake up the market." Emily's eyes narrowed as she watched the segment. Vance Enterprises had rolled out an aggressive strategy overnight. They had secured several high-profile contracts, offering deals so lucrative that even some of Bright Future's long-term clients were reconsidering their loyalty. "They're playing dirty," Jacob muttered. "This isn't just about marketing anymore. They're throwing money at every major client we've worked with." Emily leaned forward, her jaw tightening. "It's desperation. They're trying to destabilize us by hitting where it hurts most. But we're not going to panic." Luis, who had been silently watching the broadcast, finally spoke. "Emily, we've built something incredible here. Our clients trust us. We can't let a few losses shake us. But what's the plan? Because if this keeps up, the board's going to get nervous." Emily took a deep breath, her mind racing. They couldn't compete with Vance on financial incentives alone. It wasn't sustainable, and it wasn't who they were. But they could outmaneuver him with strategy and creativity. She stood, addressing the entire room with a calm but determined voice. "We're not going to react out of fear," she said firmly. "Vance is banking on us crumbling under pressure, but that's not going to happen. Here's what we're going to do. First, we reinforce our strongest partnerships. We need personal outreach from our leadership team to every major client, reminding them of the value we bring beyond financial deals." Jacob nodded. "I can pull up the client list and prioritize based on risk levels. We'll contact the highest priority accounts today." "Good," Emily said. "Next, we're going to counter their strategy by doing what we do best, connecting with people on a human level. Let's accelerate the rollout of the next phase of Together We Rise. We'll feature stories that show how our clients thrive with us, not because of one-time deals, but because of long-term relationships and trust." Priya's eyes lit up. I can coordinate social media live events with some of our most loyal clients. If people see these stories in real time, it'll reinforce our credibility. Exactly, Emily agreed. And we'll release a statement addressing the situation head-on. We'll emphasize that we believe in sustainable growth and partnerships, not short-term tactics. This isn't just business for us. It's personal. The team sprang into action, energized by Emily's leadership. Calls were made, meetings were scheduled, and within hours, Bright Future's response was in full swing. Emily herself led several key client meetings, reassuring partners that their commitment to excellence hadn't wavered. That evening, as the office began to empty, Emily sat alone in her office, reviewing client feedback from the day's outreach efforts. For the most part, the response had been positive. Many clients appreciated the personal attention and reaffirmed their loyalty to Bright Future. But a few had expressed concerns, citing the aggressive offers from Vance Enterprises. Nathan Duncan knocked on the open door and stepped inside. "You've had a long day," he said, setting a cup of coffee on her desk. "Thought you could use a boost." Emily smiled tiredly. "Thanks, Nathan. It's been intense." "I heard about the meetings," Nathan said, sitting across from her. "You handled them perfectly. The clients trust you, Emily. That's something Vance can't buy, no matter how much money he throws around." "I know," she said, sighing, "but it's exhausting, fighting these battles day after day. Vance won't stop until he either breaks us or breaks himself." Nathan leaned forward, his expression serious. "Then let him break himself. He's playing a dangerous game. You've already outsmarted him at every turn. Just keep doing what you're doing, leading with integrity. It's what got us this far." Emily nodded, feeling a renewed sense of determination. Nathan was right. Vance's strategy was unsustainable, and eventually, it would collapse under its own weight. All she had to do was stay the course. Over the next few weeks, Bright Future's counter-campaign gained traction. The new client stories and live events generated massive engagement, reinforcing the company's reputation for authenticity. Meanwhile, rumors began circulating about trouble within Vance Enterprises. Despite the influx of new contracts, internal reports hinted at budget overruns and growing dissatisfaction among Vance's senior leadership. One afternoon, Emily received a surprising email. It was from a former executive at Vance Enterprises who had recently resigned. "Dear Ms. Parker, I wanted to reach out to commend you on the incredible work you've done at Bright Future. As someone who has seen the inner workings of Vance Enterprises, I can tell you that your leadership has shaken them to the core. Robert Vance may never admit it publicly, but he knows he made a grave mistake in underestimating you. Keep up the great work. You've earned every bit of your success." Emily read the email twice, her mind flashing back to the moment Vance had rejected her during that first interview. It was a reminder of how far she had come and how much she had accomplished despite the odds. Later that day, she stood before her team, addressing them with pride. "We've faced immense pressure these past few months, but we've come out stronger. This isn't just about beating Vance Enterprises. It's about proving that when you lead with integrity, you can achieve greatness. I couldn't be prouder of what we've built together." The room erupted in applause, and Emily felt a deep sense of gratitude for the people around her. This journey had tested her in ways she never could have imagined, but it had also shown her the strength of community and resilience. As the team celebrated, Emily knew that the hardest battles often led to the greatest triumphs. The war with Vance Enterprises wasn't over, but she was ready for whatever came next. Together, they would rise, and no one could stop them. The tension that had dominated the past few months finally began to ease. Bright Futures Together, We Rise campaign continued to outperform expectations, driving both client retention and new business growth. Emily had spent countless late nights overseeing strategy meetings, personally connecting with clients, and making sure her team felt supported. Now, as the results poured in, the payoff was undeniable. Word of Vance Enterprises' internal struggles spread quickly. Despite their aggressive attempts to reclaim market dominance, their tactics had backfired. Several of their key clients were openly dissatisfied, citing broken promises and rushed service rollouts that prioritized profit over quality. To make matters worse, media outlets began reporting on the company's declining morale and budget mismanagement. The once invincible Robert Vance was losing his grip. Emily sat in her office, reviewing the latest industry news. A headline caught her eye: Robert Vance under fire. Executives resign amid controversy. She leaned back in her chair, taking in the article. Several high-ranking leaders at Vance Enterprises had resigned, citing concerns over the company's lack of direction and ethical compromises. The irony wasn't lost on her. Just a year ago, she had stood in this very building, dismissed by Vance himself as a liability, nothing more than a single mother with distractions. Now, his empire was unraveling under the weight of his own arrogance. A soft knock on her office door interrupted her thoughts. Nathan Duncan stepped inside, a wide grin on his face. "Emily, have you seen the latest numbers?" he asked, handing her a printed report. She glanced at the document. Revenue was up by 42%, new client acquisitions were at an all-time high, and employee satisfaction had skyrocketed. Emily smiled in disbelief. "Nathan, these numbers are incredible. I knew we were doing well, but this is beyond anything I imagined." "It's because of you," Nathan said, his tone sincere. "You led us through one of the toughest periods in our company's history. You didn't just keep us afloat, you turned us into the market leader. The board is already talking about expansion plans and new initiatives." Emily shook her head modestly. "It wasn't just me. The whole team made this happen. They believed in the mission, and that's what carried us through." Nathan chuckled. "That's why you're such an effective leader. You give credit where it's due. But don't sell yourself short, Emily. You were the heart of this transformation." She smiled softly, feeling a mix of pride and humility. This wasn't just a professional victory, it was a personal one. Every challenge, every sleepless night, and every moment of self-doubt had led her to this point. Despite their successes, Emily knew there was still one loose end: Robert Vance himself. She hadn't heard from him since the day he offered her the CMO position, and part of her wondered how he was handling the fallout at his company. That question was answered a few days later when an unexpected email appeared in her inbox. Subject: a lesson learned. "Dear Emily, I hope you're well. I've been watching your success from a distance, and I want to extend my congratulations. You've built something truly remarkable. I'll admit, seeing the impact of your work has forced me to reflect on my own leadership. I underestimated you once, and that was a mistake I'll always regret. But that mistake taught me something valuable. Leadership isn't about control or dominance. It's about trust and empathy. I'm stepping down from Vance Enterprises. It's time for new leadership to take the reins. I wanted to reach out, not for any business reason, but simply to acknowledge the incredible person you are. You've earned your place at the top. Thank you for proving that there's a better way to lead. With respect, Robert Vance." Emily stared at the email for a long time, her emotions swirling. She had spent so much of her career trying to prove people like Vance wrong, and now here he was, offering her the respect he had once denied her. It felt surreal, but also deeply validating. After a few moments, she drafted a brief reply. "Dear Mr. Vance, thank you for your message. I appreciate your kind words and your honesty. Leadership is a journey, and we all learn from our experiences, myself included. I wish you all the best in your next chapter. Warm regards, Emily Parker." As she hit send, she felt a sense of closure. The chapter with Robert Vance was finally over, and she could move forward with peace of mind. The following week, Bright Future held its annual company celebration, a lavish event designed to honor the team's achievements. Employees from across the organization gathered in an expansive event hall, which was decorated with images and quotes from the Together, We Rise campaign. The atmosphere was electric, filled with laughter, music, and stories of triumph. Nathan took the stage to address the crowd, his voice filled with pride. Tonight, we celebrate more than just numbers on a balance sheet. We celebrate resilience, creativity, and the power of working together. Over the past year, we've faced challenges that could have broken us. But thanks to the leadership of someone truly extraordinary, we've come out stronger than ever. He turned to Emily and motioned for her to join him on stage. The room erupted in applause as she walked forward, her heart pounding with emotion. Emily Parker, Nathan continued, you've been the guiding light for this company. Your vision, integrity, and unwavering dedication have transformed Bright Future into the industry leader it is today. We are honored to follow your lead. Emily took the microphone, her hands trembling slightly. She gazed out at the sea of faces, her team, her colleagues, her friends. These were the people who had believed in her and supported her every step of the way. Thank you, Nathan, she began, her voice steadying. And thank you to every single person in this room. This journey hasn't been easy, but together, we've accomplished something extraordinary. We've shown that success isn't just about numbers. It's about people. It's about lifting each other up and creating a legacy built on trust, compassion, and collaboration. The applause was deafening. Emily smiled, her eyes glistening with tears. In that moment, she knew she had found her true purpose, not just as a leader, but as someone who inspired others to believe in themselves and their potential. Later that night, as the celebration wound down, Emily found a quiet moment to reflect. She stood outside on the event hall's balcony, gazing at the city skyline. The journey that had brought her here was filled with twists and turns, triumphs and setbacks. But through it all, she had stayed true to herself. Her phone buzzed with a message from Lily, who was staying with her grandparents for the night. Good job, Mommy. You're a superhero, the message read, accompanied by a string of heart emojis. Emily laughed softly and replied, Thanks, sweetie. I love you. As she slipped her phone back into her pocket, she felt a deep sense of peace. The future was brighter than ever, and she was ready for whatever came next. Together, they would continue to rise. And now, I want to hear from you. Which part of this story touched your heart the most? Leave a comment and share your thoughts. And of course, if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more narratives like this. Each subscription helps us continue bringing exciting stories to you. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.